Hey everyone, my name's Adrian.
My name's Aaron.
Welcome back to Teach One, the health and wellness podcast that aims to empower you by improving your awareness of your mental, social, and physical being through shared experience. Thank you for choosing to spend this time with us. Thank you for investing in yourself. Subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen and join our community on Facebook and Instagram at 2teachone. That's TWOTEACHONE, and on our website at www.2teachone.com. That's www.2teach1.com.
2teachone.
That's right. Today's guest is a house manager at a Denver rehab facility and a personal friend of both Aaron and I. He's here to tell the story of his journey from sickness to health. You can reach him at Joe Live Uno. That's JoeLiveuno on Facebook, or you can send him a message via our website at www.2teachone.com. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Joe.
Yeah,
Yes.
welcome, Joe.
Thank you.
Joe Live Uno.
Live Uno. Okay, so
That is
Yeah,
me.
we gotta know.
we actually decided to wait. You almost told us about that story. So what's up?
So Joe Live Uno came from, let's see, some people in San Diego that I grew up with, because I grew up kind of, I don't know, always getting into trouble. I first got into trouble when I was in third grade for shooting out windows with BB guns, just always getting into trouble, you know?
Yeah.
And I started getting into vandalism when I was, 12, 13, started writing graffiti, started getting into hip hop, and that whole thing kind of took a big influence in my life, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
All the hip hop, the four essential elements, break dancing, graph writing.
Right.
That whole thing, right? So I got into it, and I started writing for a crew called TWK, and I was called Anti at first, right? So I was going around painting Anti everywhere. And
Gotcha.
then this buddy of mine that I met at Michael's, the arts and crafts store. That's where all the graffiti artists are, dude. You go to any Michael's, any kid in there is probably a graph writer. If he's yeah. So met him there. He worked there, and I started hanging out with him. And he was from this big crew in San Diego called CMR. Kind of stands for creating my reality, causing mass ruckus, all that type of thing. So I was like, all right, cool. I want to write with you guys. He's like, all right. He's like, well, go get up, and there's 20 kids in the crew or whatever. I was like, all right. So I went out and started painting. They're like, all right. After a month of passing their kind of, thing that they put me through, he's like, all right, your name is now Live. Live One. Live Uno.
Live Uno.
So yeah, I actually grew up with those guys, painted with them for years, probably since I was 15, 14. And I don't even know some of those guys' real name. And as they don't know mine either. They know me as Live or Live. Live One, Live Uno.
That's interesting.
And I was the only white boy in the crew, obviously, so I got to throw the Uno in there for the love,
Right.
Yeah. So
Yo,
That's
man.
awesome.
Yeah, it's a
That's
trip,
great.
right?
So you're the one dude,
I'm that guy.
You see that white dude who's hanging and has earned the respect of all the black dudes and Latino guys?
Yep.
Yeah, you need to watch out for that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's about 20 guys, and I was the white guy. But I'm part Native American, but not enough to look it. So I was the white guy.
Yeah, man. My philosophy has always been, really pay attention when you're around that guy, because you never know what he did to earn the respect of everyone in his crew.
Exactly. Yes.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
A lot of
yeah.
bad shit, dude. That's what I did, dude.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome name. Plus, it's got a
Yeah.
great backstory. I didn't know I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah,
Dude,
That's great. I
So-
like a good story.
Yeah, that's where it came from. It's a trip.
Do you still do art and stuff?
Yeah, I still paint a little bit. I still have some black books. I got
Okay.
a lot of paint pens that I still do some art in.
That's awesome.
I stopped doing illegal art.
Right.
Yeah, that was probably the first thing I got addicted to, though. Was probably graffiti.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, one of the things about Denver is they sort of encourage that in a way. And I think it's not the illegal part,
Yeah.
but there are definitely parts and projects that they're like, hey, if you are, somebody that likes to do those things, here's an opportunity for you to do it. Because I notice I run down by the river,
Yes.
that thing that runs along Spear, and they'll have all kinds of art going on down there and people painting new stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah, I really love that about, the city. It's taken on But I get where that's coming from, because like, what would you rather do? Have people just putting a bunch of like random, like, just tags everywhere, or actually open it up so people can like come over and like, do pieces that everyone can enjoy and actually like, identify with, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. They have those competitions, like, in Rhino. What's that one? I mean, that's amazing, man. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because like our crew, we would paint, and I had standards, right? I wouldn't go hit people's personal property. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't do that. I knew guys that would. They didn't they didn't care.
Right.
I did. I would always hit like state stuff, like the walls, the state of California. I had no problem painting on their shit.
Gotcha.
But anybody's personal, I wouldn't do. And if there was already art on the wall, I would not go over that art. Because the whole purpose is to put art out there. We're subjected to advertising and everything else. Why can't I put my thing out there? So if there was something already out there that was art, we wouldn't touch it.
Right.
So out of respect for, wanting art out there. It was like the whole thing. But
yeah, that's interesting because we, we've had some clients who were also into that.
Yeah.
And we talked to them about, because there was a mural near, the men's facility.
Yeah.
And we're like, how come that doesn't get painted on? But then eventually it did.
Yep.
And apparently, like, there was some respect for a little bit because it was new.
Yeah.
But then that person that did that mural was known in the community to undercut other people. Mm-hmm. So that respect only went so far.
Yep.
And I was like, that's an interesting
it's tagged all the way up
if he had beef, there's those guys that don't like him that are going to go right over his shit.
Yeah.
Guarantee.
And they did.
Yep.
Yeah.
But some of the other stuff, right, never gets touched. And you're like, I can respect that.
Yeah, those guys are dope. They have respect to the community and the graph writers in the area. Yeah.
Yeah, except for the any what do you call it? The trash collection bins, right?
Yeah.
Anything that's new immediately, right?
I know, right?
Yeah. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
So you're into graph writing, right? And you're part of this crew. So what happens next?
A lot of trying to prove myself. So I didn't grow up with the dad, right? So I was always kind of looking for that direction, and I found it in this crew. They're like, we're down for you. We love you. You're the homie. And some of the guys, like Johnny taught me how to fight. They became that kind of figure to me that I needed, but not in a positive way. It was more like, hey, this is how you fight. This is how you go with respect. Like, kind of like if you get locked up, it's like, good. All right. You're on your way to prison. Like, that's cool.
Right.
Like, that's the shit. I was like, thought that was important, which was, later looking on it is so twisted and wrong, but that's where I got it from. It's like, oh, that's how I be a man. Oh, I'm tough. I beat these guys. I'll go fight these guys. I'll go stab this guy. I'll still, stuff like that. And that people thought that was important, and I got respect from violence and things like that. Doing those type of things because it was like kind of like a tag banging type of thing / gang. I guess you saw it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's why I got into that, because I was looking for something and I found it with those guys.
That's interesting. I think that happens a lot, especially, if you don't grow up with a father, you're always kind of looking for, where do I fit in? And then if you find that, that's what you're going to do. That's what you're going to learn.
Yes.
Right? That's why it's, I think it's so important, like, to work with youth so that you can provide that, because you're 15 or something. You don't know.
No.
I used to think the same way. No one was there to be like, okay, that's ridiculous. Here's the actual way you be a man, right?
Yeah.
But I feel for those kids, when you don't know, right?
Dude, if someone would have told me like, hey, what do you want to do? Because just hanging out with your friends and getting fucked up isn't a plan. And working at Michael's and just getting some money and partying isn't a plan. What do you want to do? Like, I never had that. And I think that's why I'm wanting to kind of get into that, to help those kind of kids that don't have dads, and maybe like I could actually get to one of them at one point, like, hey dude, like, cause this shit's, what's cool? Education's cool. A house is cool.
Right.
A fucking car is cool. That's what's fucking cool. Not being stupid.
Yeah.
Going to jail, that shit's whack,
Yeah.
Like I wish just my thinking was just so off, dude.
I know.
And I guarantee there's so many people out there like that, like those young guys just trying to figure it out.
When we see quite a bit of them. I mean, maybe not at that stage, but later on.
Yes.
You know?
Right.
And heck, we were all those people at one point, right?
Yes.
When we started on this journey, we're like, you know, you have to get to that stage of your life where you can listen, where you're like, hey, maybe what I'm doing doesn't work. Because I had the same thing. Like, that was my plan. Like, what's the next party? What's the next thing I'm going to do to get messed up? Like, that's what was cool. That's what was respectable amongst the people that I hung out with.
Yes.
Nobody was like, hey, we should go get jobs and go to school, right? That never happened, right? Those were the losers.
Yep.
But what's interesting is those like today, those are the people that own things and, you know, have companies and, you know, like getting paid for your art. That's what you ought to be doing if you're an artist, not just, you know, doing random stuff on the wall.
Yes.
You know, although it has its place, like I guess Banksy, you know, like if you're, it's an interesting, the art world is a little bit more free than just, you know, going and getting a job and doing, like, you don't have to do something that you hate.
No.
Like, you can incorporate the things that you love to do with,
and it's so antisocial anyway, and that was me. I didn't like the police, I didn't like the government, and that was my way of saying, well, fuck you and fuck the system type of thing. And there's a lot of people like that. But some of the guys, as they get older, they get like, okay, maybe I can make some money at this, or maybe I have a political kind of stance, and this is the way I can get it out to like make people see.
Yeah.
You know. So it just kind of morphs and forms, I guess, you know, as you go.
Yeah. So, you know, what I think is interesting is that all the effort that you put into just, you know, messing up, like if you channel that into actually trying to do something positive, it's like you can achieve so much.
Yes.
You know, and when I look, you know, at my experience, you know, what I've been able to do in the short time that I've been, you know, sober and living, you know, a life that I can, you know, be proud of, you know, and actually, you know, sleep well at night and, you know, be happy and, have support and love and a network, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's crazy, right? Like, what if I had just, I mean, obviously you go into this, like, what if I had, you know, started sooner, but, you know, the potential, you know, is, it's definitely there.
Yes.
You know, we always hear people talk about how, like, you know, so there's corporate gangsters and there's like street gangsters, right? Like there isn't a big difference, right? The biggest difference is like the guys on the street go to jail. The other guys, you know, are riding around in cars still. Yeah. You know, from time to time they get locked up, you know, in, you know, club fed, you know, and stuff like that. But like, you know, long story short, you can definitely channel all that effort and all of that desperation and like energy into doing something positive and really, really like crush it.
Yes, I agree. And I think for me personally, like, I was always searching for something. And with that search, it led me into those wrong avenues and things, you know, especially like how I ended up, you know, because using is a big part of my story, obviously, you know, an addiction. And looking back on it, I see that there was always a void for me. Like, oh, I never had a dad. I had to figure this out. Why couldn't someone just, you know, all these excuses I could have used. But that, looking back on it, it's going through those struggles, I think, was positive for me to become like, and give me the drive I wanted to get out of those certain things. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's just like, you know, a lot of comedians, like, they're super funny and they grew up in really messed up situations that they were able to turn those things around to, you know, make them funny.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. That's why that stuff is funny, because we can connect with a lot of it, right? That adversity that in the moment you can't, like, you know, you're like, that's not funny. But then afterwards, like, if, you know, for instance, when I did that interview with Slim and them, right? I was listening to it and I'm like, dude, I'm laughing a lot in this, but there's nothing funny about like where I was at back then at that point.
Yes.
You know, it just looks, and I mean, it sounds ridiculous, which it was.
Well, that's like some of our literature, some of the 12-step literature talks about how if somebody were just to drop in on a meeting, and to hear how we talk about some of the most horrible things that ever happened to anybody, they'd be like, what's wrong with these people? But that's how we deal with it, right?
Yeah.
Is through humor.
Yes.
And it's also true that the people who've gone through the most pain, like, that is both a coping mechanism and it can be dangerous because, you know, you can assume somebody's great because they're funny, but that can also be a way of dealing, like, working through some difficult situations. And you see that in meetings all the time.
Oh, I guarantee it, yeah.
Like, and then this happened, and ha, ha, ha. And you're like, you think about it, you're like, that really wasn't funny at the time.
Right. It's just a coping thing. I see it all the time in people, right? But I'll ask, sometimes I'll actually stop and be like, wait, Are you laughing? Like, is that one of your coping mechanisms? And a lot of times people will be like, yeah, it is.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I do to, like, get by, like, in those situations.
When I'm nervous or something like that.
Yeah.
You make a joke to, like,
right.
To
kind of, like, diffuse, whatever tension might be there. Yeah.
Deflection, I believe, is the the term we learned in class.
Well, yes. Indubitably.
So you're a teenager. You're living in California.
Yeah.
You're kind of getting in trouble a little bit with the
law.
Yeah.
Started like right when I turned 18. I ended up because I obviously started drinking, fairly early to try to fit in. Which I did. I fit in really good, drank a lot, was able to party a lot. So, but I made bad decisions when I drank. So I decided with my buddy to go and paint this rooftop over this building that the freeway could see. It's a perfect spot. Like, it's going to be great. So we were all drunk at the time. And when you go out painting drunk, it's not good. You're not aware of things, which you need to be if you're doing illegal activity like that. So you might want to be sober and be on your toes, Yeah. I was not, and neither was the person I was doing it with. So we paint this spot. Little did we know there's a live-in security guard under us in that building at that time. So he hears people like climbing on the roof. What do you think? Oh, they're trying to break in. Someone's trying to break in here or whatever. So while we're sitting here painting, the cops start rolling up. We were on our way down laughing. This is having a great time. This was awesome. My buddy has a paint can in his hand, and all of a sudden we got a light flashed on us. Like, oh, shit. Whoop, whoop, whoop. All that.
Yep.
He throws the can down right in front of him and just like tries to walk away. They pull their guns out on us. I just turned 18. Like, I was like, holy shit, I'm going to jail. Sure enough. Yep. So at that time, that was my first thing that happened to me with the law enforcement, which would continue for a little while after that. But that's when it started, right? Fresh 18-year-old, bam, drunk, out painting. And then I'd say a year after that, got a DUI, drinking, just underage. And then it just kind of started morphine, started doing lots of other drugs, got into opiates because I have a addictive personality. And did that. Was on heroin probably for 12 and a half years, give or take. Yeah. So I went through that whole thing. And then towards the last end of it, I started treating vodka like heroin just because that's what I did. Like, I was like, oh, I needed this. So I just started drinking in the morning, got physically dependent on that also. And realized and came to the point that I'm like, okay, I'm an alcoholic too, so I can scratch that off. So I'm an addict and alcoholic. So perfect. Now I know I can't put anything in my body. Like, I had to prove to myself that any substance I do put in is going to be the same result. Yeah. And I had to go through with that for some reason.
No, I understand completely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So how old are you at this point?
At this point, so the first time I went to treatment, it was in 2009. So that was about 10 years ago, going on 11. I ended up getting strung out and not really knowing where it was going to take me. I knew, and I kind of heard it from the movies, like, oh, heroin, you get, I didn't even know what being strung out was. I thought it's just something like, a term they use. I didn't know what, like, I didn't know what physical dependency was. So at that point, like, I was using it, and then, like, okay, I'm going to stop. Decided one day, I'm like, I need to chill out on this heroin after, like, a month or two. Right? Like, duh. So I stop and I wake up and I just have this feeling of incredible, like, impending doom, anxiety to the max, just like something I've never experienced before. And on top of it, starting to feel the physical withdrawals. And I didn't know what that was. So I called my buddy that kind of was already well into it. And he's like, dude, you're dope sick. I'm like, no. He's like, yeah, you are going. And he explained to me over the phone what I was going through. Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, he knows. He's like, yeah, if you were to get some opiates right now, put them in your body, you'll see. I'm like, So at that point, I'm like, I didn't know what to do. I was scared. Like, am I really strung out on heroin? Like, to even say that to yourself is insane.
Right.
And, but you obviously have to come to terms with it because you're feeling it. So I'm like, call my girlfriend at the time. She like was able to get a hold of some of her mom's like painkillers or whatever. Come over or take them. I'm fine. I'm like, holy shit.
He's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this was probably 2 years before 2009, so 2007 this happened.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay. And then ever since that day, it was me trying to manage it.
Yeah.
Like trying to figure out a way to not go through these withdrawals or to make enough money to have heroin all the time or do what I needed to do to not get like that again, ever.
Right.
That was my mission. Just never to feel like that, never to experience that again because there's no way, and as that happens, you start doing things that you would never normally do. It starts changing you, your behavior. And at this time, my family's seeing all this, and it got to the point where, as I started going to jail and going through these horrible withdrawal sessions in jail and not knowing what to do, it almost gave me PTSD to where I'd never forget those type of, episodes that happened to me in those places. And I was like, I would get out of jail and tell my family, like, okay, I'm done, I swear. And I would just go right back. So they got to the point where they wouldn't even let me in the house anymore.
Right.
I wasn't allowed anywhere. I was living out of my car. I got my mom to actually let me in at one point, and she locked me in the garage. And that was like, holy shit. Like,
yeah,
this is crazy. They won't even let me into their house. They're like, okay, you can come in, but we're going to lock you in this room where nothing you can steal is in here.
Right.
Because we know you're sick right now.
Yeah.
And it was me knowing I was doing these things that weren't right, but I had to not feel that way. It was all about how I cannot let myself, feel these things and go through them. And it didn't matter who I hurt or who was in the way, but it wasn't anything personal. It was me being sick.
Yeah, it was the addiction.
And physically, yes.
Literally, that's, yeah.
And on top of it, I started experiencing some mental health issues from the use, which I didn't even know, like that impending doom thing when it came. I didn't even know what that was. Came to find out it was anxiety. And ever since I started using the opiates, it changed something forever in me to where anxiety, I had anxiety now.
Yeah.
And it was all through my use. I didn't have it before, didn't even know what it was, like, per se. People get anxious every now and then or nervous. That was a thing. I'm okay with that. But this was just like panic attack, anxiety to the max.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I don't know how to deal with this, and I'm going to kind of do anything I need to do to stop this. So me realizing that with the anxiety from using, and then comes the depression because you're not meant to feel good all the time, dude. Mm-hmm. Euphoric is just not viable. And I just came to this conclusion like this time around, like, yeah, dude, you're not meant to feel great all the time. You can't be happy. Everything's not going to be okay all the time. You have to deal with life on life's terms. And I wasn't able to do that then.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I was using to take those things away, those mental issues I was having with the anxiety and the depression. And it's funny because that was the reason of it, the cause. So it's this vicious cycle of me using to get rid of these effects from using. So that happened many times. Went to treatment in 2009 for the first time. Didn't really know what was going on. Like, didn't know what to expect. Like, okay, I got clean. I'm fixed now. And my family also thought that too.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, he's all better now. He's been to treatment for 9 months and he looks great, so he's fixed. And at that time, I wasn't working on any of the reasons, the void that I talked about earlier, to fill whatever that was that made me feel less than everybody else, or whatever the issue was for me, So I just like worked out and got clean for 9 months, and literally like 2 weeks after I relapsed. Cause I didn't do anything for my, the reason I was getting high. I didn't work on it. I just got sober, and my family was just blown away. Couldn't see how I would go back to using. Just didn't get it, Neither did I at that. I'm like, I don't know why. Maybe there's something wrong with me, type of thing.
Right.
And then ended up getting more trouble with the law from drug use, possession charges, a couple more vandalism charges on top of that. And things just got steadily worse to where I was starting to face some prison time out in California. And I made the decision to move to Oklahoma because I violated probation so many times. I had really nothing else. I burned every bridge in San Diego that I had, and I was like, okay, I gotta really do something. I was at this kind of turning point in my life. Okay, I can either decide to go this way and go to prison and be that guy that those people that I grew up, kind of thought had respect for, or I could go this other way and not do all that and experience that, because I'm not built for jail, man. I'm not built for prison. I think I could survive if I had to. I've been to jail a couple of times and dealt with that, but I could, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
I made that decision that I do not want to go through that and have to deal with that. So I went to Oklahoma. My tribe's out there. They had this reentry program for felons out there. So I was able to, I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I was ready not to go to prison, but I don't know. I think I might have lied to myself and thought I might have been ready to get clean and sober. I could have told myself that. I probably did. Went out there and I did good for a little while, probably a couple of months, got off, the heroin and all that. Got a job, got my GED. I was like, wow, I'm really doing good. And, all while kind of looking, out there for some maybe connect or someone that might had heroin, so it wasn't gone. There was still that obsession that hasn't left me yet.
Yeah.
So I was kind of drinking and maintaining for a little while, and obviously didn't. So that kind of came crashing down, lost my job out there. Just this cycle of things that just already happened in San Diego starting to happen in Oklahoma now.
Yeah.
So picked up, moved to Oklahoma City, went to detox there a couple of times again. Just dealt with that. That was kind of intense. Because like I said, I think you start to get PTSD from those withdrawals and the fear of it, because, that's why a lot of people don't get clean, because they're too scared to go through those withdrawals and deal with it. Even with Suboxone or methadone, a lot of people, they just won't, they can't deal with it. So I was able to do that, and then got strung out again. My girlfriend at the time brought me out to Colorado because I basically did what I did in San Diego to Oklahoma, just burn every bridge I had over there. Drove out here, lived with my family, and then again got, back on opiates, heroin. By this time, there was no joy in it anymore at all. I mean, the joy kind of left a while, but it was getting to where I wasn't getting high. It wasn't doing the same thing that it did for me. It wasn't filling that void that I had anymore.
Yeah.
And just to see, what it was doing to my family on top of my health. I was starting to get health issues from it now too. And just my mental health, it was getting even worse on top of it. So I got back on Suboxone, back off Suboxone, and then I moved to Denver. That was about 2 years ago, and then ended up finding, opiates again, obviously. And by this point, I was drinking and using opiates on a daily basis, to where now I was physically dependent on both of them.
Yeah.
I ended up, this was in Aurora about a year and a half ago. My mom ended up finding me overdosed in the bathroom. That was the first time she's experienced that with me. Not the first time it's happened, obviously. I went through many of those type of situations. But it was the first time where a member of my family saw me like that. And it was intense. for her. It was intense for me to see her see me like that, kind of waking up out of it with her just freaked out and scared for me. And I was to the point where I was so depressed and so gone and not wanting to deal with life. Like, I was like, okay, I'd rather die. And this is when it was kind of going to the point where, like, because I experienced treatment and sobriety first. I was like, if I do decide to get clean, this is when I was using and drinking. I'm like, if I do decide to do that again, I'm like, I'm either going to really do this or I'm just going to use until I die because I'm over it.
Yeah.
I'm to the point where I'm so tired and done with this. And I mean, I wouldn't get out of my room for weeks on at an end. I would just lay in bed and drink and use and just sit there in this sick. It was sick, dude. It was just really sick looking back on it. And I couldn't function. Like even going to the store was just this huge ordeal for me, like of anxiety and just craziness. So after that overdose, I got to the point where I was like, well, you got to leave. You know, I'm like, I think I'm ready to get help, you know? And she's like, you either have to, you know, I just can't deal with this anymore. She's like, you can use or do whatever you want. I'm like, no, I'm tired. So I ended up hitting up Denver Indian Health, a place that helps kind of Native Americans find, you know, resources. They gave me a resource to this rehab in here in Denver that I decided to go to because I just heard through word of mouth that it was a great place, that things happen here. But I ended up getting on Suboxone again. And so that was like the third time being on Suboxone. It worked for a little bit, but I didn't want to be on it. I felt like as I started going through treatment and getting well, I guess, I felt that it was hindering me spiritually almost. Because I decided that I did want to do the 12 steps and I wanted to try that. I got to the point where I was really, really willing to try anything.
Right, yeah.
Right? I'm not as like, this is it.
Yeah.
Type of thing. And I would have to say, I guess what they call it, the gift of desperation, I guess.
Yeah.
Like anything literally looked better than what that was. Right. Like literally, I mean, anything.
Yeah.
You know, and this time around, I was just generally happy. I got happy again. And I haven't been happy for like 3 or 4 years. Like literally happy. And this was all from actually working on the issues of that kind of spiritual malady that they talk about. I'm like, that's that void that I've been feeling my whole life, that missing piece that I've always had. If it was, you know, because of my, you know, not having a dad or whatever it was, you know, I could have a million excuses for it, but it was that void that helped me realize what was the issue and what I had to kind of concentrate on. Kind of that spiritual aspect. Because when you are, what I found out is like when you're fulfilled in that way and okay with you like that, you can deal with anything. It's not going to be like, oh, today sucks. So you are, I don't know how someone explained to me, it's kind of like an acid trip. If you've ever taken acid, right? You can kind of explain an acid trip, but you can't really explain it. You have to kind of like have done it to know it. And I would kind of say that to treatment or working the 12 steps. It's this journey that you take, and it's similar for everybody, I guess, you know, doing it, but everybody does have their own type of trip.
Yes,
through
absolutely,
it.
right.
Yeah.
And these self-realizations of things and this process that goes to you to get you to where you need to be to get it. Yeah. I guess, right?
No, I couldn't agree more. Right? It's so difficult to explain to somebody. And yet when you hear somebody explain it back to you, having been through it, you're like, yeah, that's it. Right? You got that. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but you can totally tell when somebody gets it because things change.
Yes.
Lives change at that point. And before, there's no, like, I guess if I had a question, you know, can you identify anything truly different? Like, or was it just the gift of desperation, as you called it? Which, yeah.
I don't know. I think it was a culmination of things. I think I was a little bit older, a little bit mature. Things got a lot worse than they ever did for me. things that I couldn't understand at that time, or not willing to understand. I was finally able to understand. And like they said, kind of saying like, keep it simple. Mm-hmm. Right. So I try to keep it very simple to what was for me. And I think it was, the gift of desperation, just being just so over it, and how depressed, and how just I wasn't really willing to live or go on like that. Yeah. So anything would have been better. And it was a lot better. And I think that, and understanding in my maturity, and having experienced sobriety before, and it not lasting, and going back to it, I think had a big thing to do with it, because it was me testing the water and figuring it out. Like, is this something I want? Am I willing to go to any lengths to do it, type of thing? And I came to the conclusion that yes, I was, and I was willing, and I wanted it. I genuinely wanted it, and I was generally became happy and enjoyed life for the first time sober. Yeah. And people say that in meetings, like they've had like the burning bush type of thing. Like, that's cool. It didn't happen to me. I had, relapse was a part of my story. A lot of things were, but what I did experience that I used to hear in the rooms was, I wake up and I don't have that mental obsession anymore. Yes. I was like, holy shit. I used to hear people say that. I'm like, how the fuck did that happen? And they don't know it's that trip they took on themselves and did it. It's that exactly, they took the trip of recovery, and they don't know how it happened, but now the mental obsession has left them. Yeah. That happened to me, and I don't know how it happened. I did what they said. Mm-hmm. That's how, but like, I can't explain like what happened to me. Like, I don't know. Yeah. It's unexplainable. It's that higher power type aspect, I guess. Yeah. That psychic change. And it's so interesting how I feel the exact same way. And that I can't exactly explain the difference between this time and all the other times, right? Yes. But what I can say was, I got desperate enough where I was exactly in the same place. And I think we all were. We're like, I am not living like that anymore. So all these other like conditions I used to have, like, well, I want to get clean, but I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to reserve this. And I'm not talking about that. All that went away. And I'm like, what you got? And it's like somebody's got some water, and I'm in the desert, and I'm like, I need some. Oh, that's good. Yes. Yeah. And then you're like willing, and then you just do it. And then all of a sudden one day you look around and you're like, hey, life isn't perfect, but I am okay.
Dude, yes. I say it all the time. Like, my life was mad exciting, right? But for all the wrong reasons. Like, there was just all kinds of crazy stuff going on, Now, well, my life is still very exciting, but for other reasons. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's because of what I do for work, the people I'm surrounded by. Like, I've never been in a more interesting and fulfilling place in my life. That said, I say it all the time, like, like back then, there was just like really horrible, I'm hanging out at the bar with my uncle, and in walks my now ex-girlfriend, and she goes, hey, come outside. I've got all your stuff. It's on the sidewalk. That's the kind of exciting, what I'm saying? Just drama and stuff like that. Now, like, if I go to bed a little bit too late, man, I wake up feeling like I'm a little hungover. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've adopted a lifestyle that is a lot more stable, way more fulfilling, and it just completely exciting for all of the right reasons, right? Right. And the most interesting thing, that I remember experiencing, and maybe, you can tell me if you experience this, is once I started doing the right things, there was a discomfort that I couldn't identify, but it happened every time I was doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. And I was subconsciously like, so my mannerisms, things had changed, and I was making different decisions. And I knew, like, from early on, like, that was the cue that I was probably doing something right, because it was so uncomfortable. Because usually if I'm making my type of decisions, it's easy. And it almost certainly means I'm a mess, I'm fucking everything up, okay? Like, things are going horribly awry. Yes. Right? But those decisions were so easy, to me. And it was just like second nature. Yes. But now, and that's still how I measure, things, because believe it or not, it has not changed. Like, every time I'm doing something that's worthwhile, there's a lot of discomfort, but it's brought on for different reasons, right? Because maybe there's a little bit of I'm a little bit apprehensive, fearful because, there's something good, going on. It's difficult. You know what I'm saying? Like, this fear of failure or whatever it is. But these are all things that if you face them, right, come with, this, a different reward. So it's kind of like a healthy, in a way, in a weird way, it's a healthy fear and a healthy discomfort.
Yes.
Because for me, it signals growth.
Yes.
And I'm so tired because I've just been growing, I guess, for so long now. But yeah, so I just love what you're saying about, being in that place where you just threw up like, the white flag and you're just like, anything beats what was going on.
Yes.
Right. And in a weird way, that gift of desperation, I was sitting here listening to you and I was like, yeah, man, that's the gift that keeps giving.
It is.
For real.
If you lose it, I actually read somewhere, right? It said, the people, like, so say, like, how we talk about, depending on where you're at in sobriety. Last night, I went to my first show ever, with Jacob and Aaron, right? Went and saw this, group called Cinematic Orchestra.
Oh, nice.
And so, I mean, we've talked about how in the past when we went to shows, there was a big part of it was like, just getting messed up. And at some point in the show, he was actually talking, he leans over to me and goes, I can't believe I haven't smelt any weed yet. and I was thinking to myself, I was like, yo, word, for real. Like, what's going on?
What concert is this?
Yeah, exactly. Right. And like, we smelt a little bit on people's like, clothes and stuff.
Yeah.
But like for I've been sober a long time now and, a little bit less for Aaron, but still, a decent amount of clean time. But for so many people, there's this test, right, of going out and experiencing these things when you're sober.
Yes.
And so I read somewhere that people that still have that, like, that moment where they're fearful, they're not going to let it ruin their time, but it's definitely registering.
Yes.
You're more likely, if you actually experience that, to stay sober than if you're just like, you don't feel anything. Exactly.
Yeah. There should be some sort of apprehension. I think, like, especially when you're, I don't know, like I'm coming up on my year of sobriety, right? So all these things that you're talking about are new. I'm experiencing a lot of these things for the first time sober. Like going to a show for the first time sober. Doing a lot of things for the first time sober.
Right.
And not really knowing what to do and having some of those fears and anxieties, which I think is perfectly normal. I do. And
it is.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, completely. Like, you're not supposed to be numb.
No.
Like completely numb to like feeling like everything that, responding to what's around you, right? Because that's a normal response to what's happening around you.
Yes.
So you're numb like to all of that stuff when you're using, but your dopamine is just like sky high, but that's become like your default, right? So you're not even like really aware of how, like what that, like the effect that's having.
Yes.
That's just where you like exist now.
Yes.
But yeah, it's cool because Andrew was telling me about, like the show that you guys went to. Like, so what's that experience, right? Like, so I got to experience that yesterday and I was just thinking like, it's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just the way you're experiencing the lights and everything. Because I guarantee you, I saw a couple people in that crowd. I was looking at this one dude. I'm like, that dude is messed up right now.
Yes.
And I could like relate to where he's at, but I'm having a completely different experience.
It was so interesting because I was still like the music and the lighting and everything still kind of put me in a different state of mind.
For sure,
and
man.
I didn't know how I was going to react. I was like, am I even going to be able to enjoy this? I remember when I first got clean, I'm like, am I even going to like music anymore? Because it was they went together so much. But yeah, it was interesting because I was able to like enjoy it in a different way. And then, like we saw somebody like really messed up and some things like that. And you're like, this is great. Like I was able to enjoy the show. I had a good time. I can drive home. I don't have to worry about it.
Yep.
Right. Like if I get pulled over. Yeah, exactly. I remember the show. If I get pulled over, that's fine. Hey, officer, how you doing? Have a good night. In such a different way. But yeah, it was the first show I had been to sober since I was a teenager.
Wow. Yeah.
Because I just avoided it like the plague. Because that was one of those things that I didn't think. I was like, maybe I just don't go to concerts.
Yeah, I'm not going to
anymore.
put myself in that situation type of thing, right? That's what I would do. But I don't know, when I wasn't knowing what to expect. I was super uncomfortable, like you said, but like what I was told also is those uncomfortable abilities that happen to you when that happens, it's growth.
Yes.
That's all growth. You don't grow from nothing happening to you. You know, all those feelings of like, okay, this is kind of challenging. All those challengings, you're always like kind of growing from them in some way, I think, especially in recovery. You face those things, you've done it. You stayed sober and clean. You enjoyed it. You had fun.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of always changing. Like, I think you're always evolving, especially in recovery. Everything, because it's always because you start to see other things that you want and can do, and you do those, and then there's new challenges that you face, and it morphs into this other thing that you are willing and able to deal with, but it's still hard, and then you grow from that, and it just kind of keeps going.
Yeah, I honestly believe that is, like, there's not one key to recovery, right? But if somebody asks me, like, what's your one piece of advice to somebody, I'm like, never stop changing, never stop growing, right? Never get too comfortable. It's like working out, like physically working out. Like if you're just lifting 10-pound weights, you're like, this is pretty easy. You know, you're not going to get any stronger. You got to do those things that are like, I don't know if I can do that. And then you do it. And then, and
you get stronger from it.
But keep that motivation to keep growing seems to be when I look at the people around me who are successful in recovery, and who've really gone on, they have not stopped growing.
I don't think it should stop, right?
Yeah, no, right? And what's cool is you end up with these people who once had these lives that were full of desperation and fear, who were now some of the most awesome human beings because they've been put in a position where they're forced to grow and become awesome human beings. Where you just take somebody, you know, if you're never an addict, that's nothing wrong. Like, you know, you did all the right things, great, but you may never be forced to grow the way that somebody is who's experienced that is forced to grow. And because of that, 5, 10 years down the line, you may find somebody who's extremely competent and capable and on the top of their game because they've just never stopped growing.
Yes.
You know?
And how I almost view it, and I don't know if you guys kind of see it the same way, I've gotten to the point where I see my experiences with addiction and alcoholism as getting me to realize certain things, almost like a means to an ends for me. And it's been a good thing almost now. I look at it as in a new beginning for me, that I'm able to realize and accept these things that I've gone through and use them as almost like I don't know, what's the word, just something that I gotten better because of. And I was able to look at myself in ways now that I wasn't able to, and kind of look at life in a way that's just so insane and like amazing. That I don't think I would have been forced to if I didn't become and have to go through all those kind of obstacles and things that I put myself through.
I think what you've just outlined is the spiritual experience, as I understand it, right? Because you will no longer regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. Like, it's funny because if we were to look at our past objectively, you're like, whoa. But now I don't look at it that way. Like, I always think the test too is when I can't see how somebody used to be in them, and because I didn't know you then. And when somebody's like, this is who I used to be, and I'm like, I don't even see that guy. That's when I'm like, something's changed. Because you can't even detect it in them. And I love that when I describe my past to somebody and they're like, you don't even look like that. And I'm like, good, because that was the point, But all those experiences, when I think back on them, I don't recoil in horror. Occasionally I'm like, man, I wish I hadn't done that. But that's just going to happen, right? But that's this motivation not to do that again. Right? And you deal with that through the steps and stuff like that. But it is interesting how it changes. You begin to not look at your past and say, man, I wish that had never happened. You look at it and you're like, I'm in some way, in some strange way, in some spiritual way I can't quite explain, I am glad that happened. Because
you view it as like a strength almost.
Yes, it's turned me into the person I am today that I wouldn't have been otherwise, right?
Yeah. I describe it as, kind of life's, way of, it's basically the school of hard knocks, right? Like, so you go through this, it's like a boot camp, right? You're just broken down through this experience of being, like just addicted and just man, you're just broken down like all the way, and you hit this rock bottom, right? And that's when you get to the point where you're like, okay, I can go this route or this route, like you explained, right?
Yeah.
I can keep going and, end up in an early grave, potentially, probably, or I can, do something different. And, when you have that gift of desperation, for me, what that looked like, now, everything I encounter, I'm like, okay, fine. So you've got a couple choices. You can either live in fear and just, kind of paralyzed by like the pressures of whatever, may be going on around you. Or you can just like rise to the occasion, because anything is better than that dark place that you were in.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, you are winning right now. Okay. And the interesting thing is, when I wake up, there was a time not too long ago. And our clients really do such a great job of teaching me, some really, really important lessons. I had someone that used to wake up. I'm not a morning person, right? So I see this guy in the mornings, and he just would not stop asking me, Adrian, how you doing this morning? How you feeling? Where you at? And so I had, because I'm just not a morning person, and I insist on authenticity. My responses weren't all that great, but later on in the day, I'd find myself thinking a lot about what I responded with, and it was just not positive. It was not, I wasn't, seeing things through a lens of, gratitude, for everything that I had. And so even though I didn't want to, what I started doing was I started making sure that I vocalize all of the things that have gone right so far in that day to this person that kept asking me, how you doing?
Yeah.
And so without saying, oh, I'm doing good, because that doesn't cut it, right? So I went out of my way to say, well, I woke up, I wasn't in pain, I could breathe properly, I could do all of these things, there's food around for me to eat. And so, without going on and on and on, I'd just be like, yeah, I'm doing great, man. I'm grateful.
Like a gratitude thing. Like
yeah. So, and saying it out loud,
yeah,
was a game changer, and now I'm actually better because of that in the mornings. I'm not great, but I definitely still practice that, like counting all of the things, like, dude, I am winning. Okay. Already.
For real.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're growing every day, man. That's that's a growth right there for sure.
Yeah. And, it's just, being in a position where I can definitely, I'm not forgetting where I've come from.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm not bigger than the lessons that can be taught, by people who maybe don't have as much sober time as I do or anything. Like, I'm just a dude. I can make one really shitty decision and just be right there.
Exactly.
Like right side by side. You know what I'm saying?
Like that.
So yeah, man. And I just really appreciate like everything. That's how I approach everything now. I'm just like, listen, like, what do you have to lose, man?
Yeah.
Like, do you want to like be at some point in the future looking back at like, oh, I backed down. Like, for what? Truth is, a lot of times, whatever we have in our mind is not even like close to reality. Like when it comes to like these fears of doing new things or leaning into situations that cause anxiety or fear or, insecurity, all these things, just lean into it, man.
Yeah.
And just like he's saying, it's time under tension, man.
Yes.
Just like working out, the same kind of thing applies in our day-to-day lives, And so that said, so what are some of the things, I mean, now you've changed things around. Like, what are some of the things that you're doing, that have made life a lot better?
Yeah. So kind of what I do or what I've learned. So like this time around when I came into treatment, I started hanging out with people that I thought were taking this shit seriously as I did. And at that time, I would keep those people kind of close to me and we would talk and kind of go through, what we did for the day and kind of keep each other accountable. And I ended up keeping a lot of those people close to me as I moved and transitioned through the program. And then like that gave me a really strong kind of foundation. And then like I did everything like literally everything anybody suggested. That's how willing I was.
Yep.
Like the counselor, hey, you should probably do this, or you should probably do that, or you should get a sponsor, or you should probably do that. Like, okay. I just did everything that was suggested to me, and all of a sudden these things started working, and I became things started like kind of happening slowly to where I would like look back, like, holy, just not even like fast enough to realize it until it's already kind of happened, type of thing. Like I'd look back like, oh, okay, that's what they were talking about, or that's what they meant. Okay. And then I was like just slowly growing in a way that I wasn't aware of when it was happening until I'd look back. And so I would have these, this foundation of these people that were serious about recovery. And I got a sponsor, did those things. And then I would just surround myself with people like outside of recovery, with people that are serious about recovery. Like that's like what I had to do for me. And I would hang out with these people. I would, like, if anything came up, like, hey, I thought about, like, let's see, like, stealing this $20 or whatever, and keep not being open with that, I find, starts to build stuff inside of me that ends up to kind of turning me toward old behaviors and things like that. If I don't speak out on it, it almost, like when I do, and when I am open about it, it almost takes the power away from it. And it's like, okay, I don't want to do that. That's old. That's like the old me. Why am I even thinking that? And realizing like, okay, this is, just how my brain has worked for so long. That's where it goes. Yeah. And being okay with it, be like, okay, I'm not that person. I don't want to do those things. Yeah. But just kind of, dealing with it and processing it in a healthy way, and being open and accountable to people that are in my life, and not lying or stealing or cheating, any of those basic things, I think is a good place to kind of do every day and be aware of like kind of where you're at, and just be aware of it, I guess.
No, yeah. I think that's well put, right? I mean, that's the key. I know for me too, like it was real simple. Like I found somebody who was, like I wanted to be, and who said they used to be like I was. And then I followed them and did what they did. And when they were like, hey, maybe you should try this, I'd be like, I don't know if I want to do that, but seems like they got something I don't, so I'm gonna go ahead and do it. You know? And before you know it, you've accomplished all these things. Yeah,
it's crazy because it's like almost like what you said before. Like they might present you with this suggestion, right? And you're like, oh, this sucks. It sounds super uncomfortable. It sounds like this is gonna be really shitty. But you end up pushing yourself to do it. Yeah. And then you come out of it on the other end, like feeling really good about yourself that you've done something, accomplished something, and then you keep doing those things, and it kind of like adds on. Because in the past, I want it. I'd be like, okay, yeah, sure, and then just not do it. Yeah. So that's another thing that changed this time around. Like I did the things that I said I was going to do. Yeah. And things started changing for me.
Yeah, I know.
Go figure.
Yeah, no shit.
It's so simple, and yet I think, we had to get to
simple,
that place.
Not easy, right?
Simple, not easy,
right,
yeah.
Right.
Because, man, there's nothing about that step work, right? No. When you're in that place, you're like, you want me to do what? I don't know if I really want to, do that. And again, then you just kind of do it. And the next thing you know, you feel better. Life is good. I think I get the satisfaction occasionally of just realizing where I was and where I'm at, and just being like completely grateful, and it just keeps me going. Yeah, like that's just that gratitude of like, I had an ordinary day and it was awesome.
Yeah, I'm happy. Like I left work the other day. I'm like, I'm gonna go get a haircut. I was just like happy. Yeah. Normal people aren't driving in their car to go get a haircut or the store like stoked on this. Like
no.
Yeah,
but it's. I used to have those moments. I tell this story about how I used to sit at this window in this house that I was living. I was renting like a room. So it was me, my girlfriend, and our 2 dogs. And I used to look out the window, right? Just completely just defeated, looking out and it was this school that was right, back there. And these people were picking up their kids and like, just normal stuff going. Some runners would come by because it was like, they'd be running in on the school grounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember looking at all these people and thinking like, what they is so seemingly normal and they may take for granted is what I want so desperately.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do know what you're saying.
So badly, man. I just wanted to just not be in pain and to just be able to like just do normal stuff.
Yes.
Just be normal. There was nothing normal about what I was doing.
No, dude. I get you to the fullest, dude. I used to watch National Geographic, like the prison shows, like when I was in that deep depression and anxiety and like not being able to function as a normal person, like you're saying. And like I would look at these guys locked up in prison and the stuff they were doing and like on a regular basis, living their life. I'm like, dude, I wish I was them.
Yeah.
That's fucking sick right there. Like these guys are in prison, out of fucking, the free world, and they could just wish. I'm in the free world looking at them thinking their life is better than mine. Yeah. Like literally I was like, dude, I maybe I should go to prison because I could probably live better. Yeah. I might be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy, dude.
You were in your own like prison.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And the kind of prison that people don't understand if they've never been there. It's very hard to understand because I was right there too, in this house and just drinking myself to death and don't understand why and can't participate in normal life and just, it's the worst feeling ever.
Yeah.
It really is.
And you're just afraid when all the joy has gone out of your drug use, right? And you're just using or drinking just so you don't have to like experience the
medicine,
terror.
Man.
Yeah, it's just medicine, and you're so ashamed of it. You don't want anybody to know. Yeah. Oh man, it's awful.
No way to live.
I wouldn't
man.
wish that on my worst enemy.
Haircuts.
Yay,
yay, haircuts.
Yeah, just happy, dude, happy.
Yeah, man, living the life, living the life.
And it's that spiritual component again, like.
Yes.
Going through all that has allowed us to experience moments that some people might find mundane and regular as literally joyous. Yeah. You're like, this is a great day. I get to go to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you're like proud of yourself for just doing normal things. Like that's where I was, especially in early recovery. Like, hey, I went and I worked out and I told the truth today. Like just those little things, dude. Yeah. It's funny, man. It's a trip.
You tell your sponsor, and they're like, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, all right. That's what.
Keep moving.
I know, right?
That's good stuff, man.
But it's funny because like you get to realize like how big a part fear played in your life that I wasn't aware of until I started getting into recovery and like serious about it. Like, holy shit! Like every one of my decisions and everything I did was based off of fear of this, fear of that, fear of withdrawing, fear of that, and then I would do my behavior and how I would act would go accordingly to what my fear was or whatever, how I conducted myself. It took a while to figure that out.
Yeah.
And be aware of it, which, obviously.
It absolutely, fear ruled my life. Yeah. And many of the odd emotional reactions that I had towards things were all based on fears that I did not understand at the time.
Yes.
And then once I was able to look at that, now I don't have to respond to situations in that way anymore. And it's all because I don't have to live in fear of consequences of it.
No, agreed. And I think when I do start fearing fear, I can have a little bit of anxiety or kind of nervousness. I get it. Mm-hmm. Again, I think that's normal, healthy type of, feelings. And when I do start getting fears or those old anxieties of like how it used to be, I know something's wrong. Like I know, okay, well, why am I feeling like this? And kind of figuring out like the whole thing behind it besides like reacting to my fear and doing what I going to my old solution.
Yeah.
And being aware of it, I think is 50% of it. Like, oh, okay, red flag. This something's wrong here.
Yeah.
So let's kind of do what you need to do to kind of.
That self-analysis is so crucial. Yeah. I have the same thing. Like when I start getting angry is for me, like I'll notice when I just start going off on stuff, even if no one else is around, just in my car, and like somebody cuts me off and I flip out, I'm like, well, hold on, man.
Yeah.
What's going on? And then, but then, and usually I can point to it. I'm like, oh, well, this major change has just happened. I'm still dealing with this stuff. Okay. And then I'm okay, right? But if I don't have that self-introspection, then it just builds, like you said.
Yes, it builds. And you get those certain feelings like that if you, like, don't deal with them, like, what do they say, those character defects. If you're not aware of them, how do you know to fix them?
Bam.
And I think that's a big thing. And then once you are aware of them, I got to the point where I was just like, when I woke up, I just, like, you can't get away from yourself when you're yourself, and, you're not proud of yourself. You're not happy with what you've done or whatever. But once you are aware of those things, that's the first step of trying to get better and, on your way to fixing it is the first thing is being aware of it.
Yeah. This is amazing. Like, I just got to say, I hope that many people hear this who are in early recovery, because everything that you have said is gold standard, right?
Yeah,
I
man.
mean,
It's the truth.
It is absolutely the truth, and you've said it extremely well.
Oh, nice.
Got to
Thank
say,
you.
yeah. No, man, this is good stuff. Thank you.
No, I appreciate you guys having me, man. This is just an amazing experience, and again, I can only tell you what, like, my experiences was, and that was it. And it was hard and it was long, but I can say today that I am happy with who I am.
Yeah.
For the first time in a long time, I can look in the mirror at myself and be proud of who I see, which is insane to think about, dude.
I know. You know what I was just thinking about? Wasn't it like your second or third day that we did that the obstacle course?
Yes.
At the men's facility?
Yes.
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah.
And just, imagine then to now.
No, there's no
Right?
way,
Yeah.
dude. Are you kidding me?
And now you work there. You're like a shining example. You're like doing great. I mean, it's amazing.
Dude, I just think it's the thing to be open to suggestions, dude. Listen, like you said, even the newcomer, like, you can get knowledge and experience from anybody. I think that's that ego part. Like, don't let your ego get in the way of you growing or learning something, right? Like,
yeah.
Why? Yeah. So I think,
Man.
it's crazy. Life's a trip, man.
Yes, it is.
Life's a garden. Dig it, bro. Stupid.
That's great.
That's Joe Dirte, bro. Not dirt.
Dirte.
It's French. Stupid.
Man. Yeah, I'm so glad. What I was really looking forward to as far as this, discussion goes was really, like I said in the beginning, to get to know you.
Yeah.
All I know is that, you've had good energy.
Yeah.
Like basically the whole time I've known you, and I was able to connect with that. And I think I think you had to go through some things, right? To get to a place where you can actually, find your way to, the next chapter, man, the next, like with the path, like you've said how you want to help, at-risk youths, right? I don't know. Maybe it's possible that you could have had a different experience, gone to school and still, had the desire to do something like that.
Yeah.
But, that's not what happened. You went through everything that you went through, and that experience has given you just the kind of knowledge, that you just cannot, I just don't see how you could get it any other way, man. And what you're going to be able to impart, to others, people that can really, really use some of that, insight and guidance, I'm excited for, the people in your future, man. It's a beautiful thing, man. I talk pretty often about how I've done a lot of different things, right? I've always done like people-centric, jobs. But I've never been in a place where we get to witness the miracles that we do. Cause that's really what, I mean, and I'm not like, like super religious or anything, man, but I just don't know another word like to use, because it's completely awesome, to see. Like, where else do you get to see some of the things that we do?
You sitting across the table from us today and talking about these things and the things that have just come out of your mouth without us telling you, like, you figured this out on your own, right?
Yeah.
Hearing that makes all the times when it's a struggle to be in our position to do what we do, it makes it worth it. All those times when it doesn't go right, that one time when you're like, that just happened.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's what makes it worth it.
Yeah. The numbers in the industry that we're in are not great.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays. You know, I can't tell you the number of people, like in the last 2 years specifically, it's really disheartening to think of how many times I've gotten news that someone I was with not too long ago has lifted into the next plane of existence.
Yeah, I've had a couple too. Yeah,
many, like a lot, right? I used to hear this thing like, my grandparents would be like, yeah, first in life you go to a lot of weddings, and then later on it's a bunch of funerals. And I just think about that.
Yeah.
Recently I'm like, it's so crazy. Like, I don't know if, I guess like when you're older, right, your friends start to die off, but like when you're our age, you're not supposed to be hearing about people dying like this.
No, you're not. It's not normal.
Yeah. So a miracle. I'm just going to go ahead and use that word, man.
Yep.
It's worth everything, that word, means, like the things that we get to see, like you sitting here, it's in some ways improbable.
Yeah, right.
In some ways it's
Well, and that's what makes it amazing.
Yeah,
it is amazing.
When you get to this part and you're like, hey, I don't have it, right? I'm not saying I got everything. But what I do know is sober today.
Yeah.
I was sober yesterday, and I'm living in a place that's kind of joyous, not trying to overthink it, just trying to do the next right thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you see that happen for somebody, you're like, cool. Right?
Yeah.
Man. It is joyous and it is a miracle.
That you got it. You're on the level.
And then when you know that you've done that too, you're like, I did beat these odds. I'm still beating them, right?
Yeah.
They're still out there, man.
Right.
Like Adrian said earlier, I'm one dumb decision.
Yeah.
But, I'm not making that decision
you're
today.
way farther away from that decision than you.
Yeah. And there's nothing in me, as long as I stay on top of my feelings. And like you said, and I deal with it when it comes up.
Yeah.
There's nothing in me driving to make that dumb decision like there used to be.
Agreed. Yes.
Yeah. And like you said, I don't know exactly when it happened, but it's not happening right now.
It's not like that for you right now. That's insane.
That's great. And when you look on that and you realize that it is improbable, then you look at your life as a miracle, and then you're grateful, and then the cycle just continues.
Yes.
And that's great.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. And like you said, I think it's a miracle. It's amazing for just even the things I've seen in my short, kind of how long I've worked there myself, right? So just to see people come in that can't function, can't deal with life, to all of a sudden be like all-stars at life again and happy and doing things and being that person that like their family knows them to be and who they truly are. Mm-hmm. That shit is amazing. And you're right. It's almost spiritual, and something else is there. Mm-hmm. And it's, I can't even explain the words to even begin to say how, it's just, what are the odds, right? They're not good, but it's fucking happening, and people do it every day.
Yep.
Yeah.
That shit happens all the fucking time.
It does.
Yeah.
And if you're out there and you're listening, you too can do this.
Exactly.
100%, man.
Yeah.
100%.
People get sober every fucking day.
Yeah, we watch it.
Yeah.
We see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's simple, and it's so funny. You can't, it's not a complicated process, although it is difficult and it is hard, and you got to get to that place where you're like, what you got? Because I am thirsty,
Yeah, man. Yes. I want something else.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I want some. Yeah. Yeah, man, dude. So yeah, if you are out there and you're thinking that, perhaps, it's something that you can't do, it's not going to be easy. It's that, journey of 1,000 steps.
Yes.
If you just keep taking one more step, you don't even have to think that far ahead, half a step. In the beginning, it's about like just increments, small ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And if you, let's say, like for me personally, relapse was a big part of my story. I took a lot to get that, message sent home. Mm-hmm. So just think, if I didn't decide to make the decision this time, I'd still be out there then.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
So
yeah.
if that does happen to you, just go back, get back to where you think, you need to be or you want to be. If you really want this, go for it. Just because you've slipped back or whatever, that doesn't mean shit.
It doesn't. Yeah.
You know, it really doesn't.
I mean, it's a cliche, but it's so true. In the end, it's not even going to matter how many times you fell down.
No.
As long as you get back up that last time that you fell down, that's what matters.
Yeah.
And you get to that place where none of that other stuff, it's not even a big deal. I used to be known as the guy who could have a Christmas tree out of the coins you get at the 24-hour coins. You know, they're silver, right?
Yeah.
They used to laugh. My group in Texas used to literally be like, hey, can you bring some of those back in because we're running low? You know?
Can we get some of yours?
Yo, Aaron was the plug.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. And I guarantee you there are people sitting in meetings in Texas that are like, yeah, he's probably drunk, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not there yet. Like everything's a stage where I get in contact with certain people and I'm not in any hurry to, but you know, at a certain point it'll be, again, you know, the proof that it doesn't really matter how many times somebody has relapsed, as long as they are willing and ready to try again. Man, let's do this.
Agreed.
Yeah.
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 Man, this has been good stuff.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah.
We're so glad to have you. You know, yeah, actually, you know what? I did have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question before we end.
Yes, sir.
So we know who you were, you know, back when you were, you know, sick, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what would like the young you say to you if they like, you know, if you could like be across from each other, right?
Oh my God.
What would young you say to you about who you are today? And keep in mind, I'm asking this because I just know there's no purity, you know, like that of a child, like the honesty in what they would say about you. So what would like young you say about you? Yeah, kids are like so savage. They'll just let you have it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would young me say about me today?
Yeah.
Like, from my old self? Like my young me.
If your young you was looking at you and they were just like, man, Joe, you're this and this and this and this. Like, this is how I see you.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I have no clue, man. I'd probably think, because I was super self-conscious growing up and I cared a lot about what other people thought. I think I'd probably be surprised, you know, because I was always a skinny dude. I still am, but I mean, I don't know, man. I was so, dude, I don't know. That's a really good question, dude.
Yeah,
I was so self-conscious. I don't know what, like, I would think of myself then, man. It's so far removed. I don't know.
Yeah,
I really
get it.
don't.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. I know what I would say to my young self. Like,
What would you say to your young
I'd be
self?
like, dude, do not, don't care what other people think. Don't read into it too much. You know, you don't take all that shit personal. Because people don't fucking care.
So true.
No one fucking cares, bro. So
everyone's just
do
trying to
whatever
figure their own stuff out.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have known that.
Oh, I think I would say the same thing. Because the day I realized how much other people don't walk around thinking about me was one of the most freeing days of my life.
Yeah.
Because, you know, and it's funny because it goes with that ego thing of addiction where you just assume you're the center of everybody's universe.
Yeah.
Because you're certainly the center of yours. And then you realize, like, hey, it doesn't matter. Because as much as I think about myself, that's what other people are thinking about most of the time anyway.
No, agreed. And I wish I would be able to tell myself, too, like, everybody's going through that same shit. Everybody's thinking the same shit.
Yeah.
You're not any different.
Dude, it's so true.
Like, I'm like, oh, well, I would always be thinking into shit so much more, I thought. And people, all those kids, you know, in 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th, they're all thinking the same shit.
Yep.
You know, but some of them, like, can play it off or do whatever. I just couldn't. I think that's what makes me an addict and alcoholic, dude. It's like, I couldn't, like, do it.
Yeah.
So,
I think there's some truth in that.
Yeah, dude.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was good.
Yeah.
This has been great. I'm about ready to wrap it up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Okay.
All right. So, we're at the end of this discussion. Thanks again, Joe, for coming and, sharing that story and, your experience with us. Hopefully someone out there, can, take something out of this. It is the goal. One of the reasons that we actually do these, episodes where someone comes and tells this story of sickness to health is twofold, really. So, like some of the people who are early in sobriety, if they hear it, they can really, really use some of this insight.
Yes.
Second, we want those who are family members, people that are not in addiction, but, obviously they suffer, because maybe an aunt, brother, son, whoever, whatever, it is suffering from addiction, for those people to get a better understanding of what people in addiction go through. I think it's really important, and it's such a big part of, us, healing as a society.
Oh, I agree.
Just more education and understanding, because it's just rough for them, because they have nothing to they just don't understand, and that the fear of the unknown, and it just creates all this anxiety and pain, and it's a lot better to at least to have a little insight into what's going on, and so we do it for those two reasons.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you a lot for coming and helping us, with that mission. And if you would like to contact Joe, if you have a question or you just want to let him know, send him a message, maybe you really liked what you heard, feel free to do so. You can find him on Facebook at JoeLiveuno.
Yeah.
Live Uno.
Joe Live Uno. Or if you want to, you can reach him through us at our website at www.2teachone.com or through our social media platforms, which we're on Instagram and on Facebook at TWOTACHONE. That's To Teach One.
To Teach One.
Yeah. So with that,
well, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate this. This is a great experience for me, and
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Thank
really.
you so much. It was great. We are now going to go and have something to eat.
That's right. Omelet's on the way.
Ooh.
All right. So with that, my name's Adrian.
My name's Aaron.
My name's Joe.
Thank you for joining us. Until next time.